Georgia criminal probe into Trump's attempts to overturn 2020 election quietly moves forward. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis kicked off her investigation with a splash earlier this year, when she fired off a round of letters to Georgia officials asking them to preserve documents related to Trump just a month after she took office. Since then, her investigation into Trump's efforts to upend Georgia's 2020 presidential election results has been more discreet, as she juggles the early stages of the Trump probe with an avalanche of backlogged cases and rising violence in the Atlanta area. What I can tell you is that the Trump investigation is ongoing. As a district attorney, I do not have the right to look the other way on any crime that may have happened in my jurisdiction, Willis told reporters this week. We have a team of lawyers that is dedicated to that, but my number one priority is to make sure that we keep violent offenders off the street. Investigators are plowing ahead as Trump continues to weigh his political future and wade into peach state politics with a Georgia rally set for late September. Among them, Representative Jody Hice, who is trying to unseat Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, and State Senator Burt Jones, who is running for the open lieutenant governor's seat. Both Raffensperger and outgoing Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan stood up to Trump's attempts to overturn the election. Both of Trump's picks to replace them are Republicans who have embraced Trump's false claims of election fraud.
While the Fulton County investigation still appears to be in its early stages, investigators so far have obtained documents from the Georgia Secretary of State's office and interviewed a handful of its staff, spoken to other Georgia election officials about how elections are conducted, and initiated conversations with congressional committees that could obtain information relevant to the Georgia probe, according to people familiar with the investigation. If Willis is able to gain access to information from congressional committees, it could provide a mountain of documents relevant to her investigation and possibly help her avoid lengthy court fights if she were to seek similar information on her own. Willis's probe spans not only the former president's activities, but also a call between Senator Lindsey Graham and Raffensperger, Rudy Giuliani's false allegations of election fraud before Georgia legislators, and the surprise departure of young B.J. Pak from his role as U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. A key area of focus has been the Georgia Secretary of State's office, after Trump called officials there following the 2020 election and pressed them to help to investigate his allegations of fraud in the hopes of overturning results showing Joe Biden won the state in November. In one call, Trump pressed Raffensperger to find the more than 11,000 votes needed for Trump to win the state. In another call, Trump urged a top investigator in the Secretary of State's office to uncover fraud in Fulton County, telling her, "When the right answer comes out, you'll be praised." Audio recordings of both of those calls have already emerged, and Willis's office has been poring over those along with other documents and records from the Secretary of State's office, according to people familiar with the matter. Investigators have also interviewed a handful of staffers in Raffensperger's office, including General Counsel Ryan Germany, Press Secretary Ari Schaefer, Chief Operating Officer Gabriel Sterling, and External Affairs Director Sam Teasley, according to two sources familiar with the matter. Those requests, which were the first indication Willis was investigating Trump, asked officials to retain records relevant to the administration of the 2020 general election as well as any attempts to influence officials who carried out the election. The letters said Willis was investigating potential crimes, including solicitation of election fraud, the making of false statements to state and local governmental bodies, conspiracy, racketeering, violation of oath of office, and any involvement in violence or threats related to the election's administration. The Georgia officials have not been accused of wrongdoing, and the letters noted that they were not expected to be targets of the investigation. In the meantime, investigators have spoken to local election officials as they build the groundwork for a potential case against Trump. Fulton County Elections Director Richard Barron said he was among the election officials who spoke to investigators from the district attorney's office. He provided them with phone messages and emails documenting the threats his office received surrounding the election, but he said their primary interest was in election procedures. January 6 investigations could offer relevant details as congressional investigators dig into the January 6 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol and the events leading up to that day. They are poised to potentially uncover a trove of information that could prove pertinent to Willis's investigation. Clearly, any information she gets could be and would be helpful, said Michael J. Moore, a former U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Georgia. I can't imagine that she would want this case to be languishing in an investigative state for a long period of time, so she may be hoping that she gets some backup from the congressional committees. The Select Committee investigating January 6 has already asked the National Archives for a range of documents, including any records of White House communications with Georgia officials such as Raffensperger, Kemp, and Francis Watson, the Secretary of State investigator whom Trump phoned, from Election Day through January 20, 2021. The document request also covers communications with Trump's former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, Giuliani, and other attorneys who participated in Trump's call to Raffensperger. Asked whether she hopes to strike a formal cooperation with congressional committees investigating the insurrection, Willis's face broke into a smile. "Oh, I hope so," she told reporters Wednesday. "It is certainly information that my office needs to see." The congressional committees are likely to get information that's extremely relevant to Willis's investigation, and staff-level conversations have already begun between the district attorney's office and congressional committees, a person familiar with the matter said. Those conversations still appear to be in the early stages, as another source familiar with the matter said there has been no active coordination so far between Fulton County investigators and the Select Committee investigating January 6 at a painstaking pace.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.